Right, I'll start.
What's the average age of a Doctor Who fan? Have you ever looked that up?
I don't know.
Don't look it up. Don't look it up.
The average age of like the attendee of a Doctor Who convention. Do you know what? I've only been a couple of Doctor Who conventions, but both times the taps in the bar went dry.
Right.
As in they were empty.
Bunch of hobbits.
Doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you.
Hello and welcome to I Hate Doctor Who, the podcast that tries to answer the old question. No, I'll do it again.
Do you want me to do it?
No, it's alright. Hello and welcome to I Hate Doctor Who, the podcast that deals with the old adage, it's normally better than this. Does that make sense?
See, what I've learned from making content is that it doesn't matter how many mistakes you make.
Aye.
As long as you leave a wee gap afterwards, and then you can just call it all again.
Did you intentionally say make steaks?
Did I say that?
I think you did. My name's Richie, and if you're new to this podcast, basically the idea is that I take someone who hates Doctor Who, I try and find a story for them that they might like, and try and bring them round. I've been playing a bit fast and loose with the format recently, but the last episode I had a bunch of Doctor Who fans on.
Have you had a woman on? Is that what you mean by that?
I know. Hey, there's been...
Thinking outside the box.
I've done more podcasts with women on this podcast than I've done any other podcast I've ever
interesting.
done. Certainly more than we got on Game Week.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I've been playing a bit fast and loose with the format just to try and get some new people on. Now today, I do have a hater, I think.
Well, I don't know how much this is breaking this, because I have a lot of my notes that I've taken are like about my nostalgic feelings that I'm getting watching it. So I'm not 100% a hater.
Well, so
I certainly don't like it now.
I was going to say
also I've not been able to stop doing this thing because I do my own podcast. We'd no long done an episode of the old Doctor Who, so I've not been able to stop myself from comparing what we've watched to that utter garbage that I watched for my own podcast, which was inexcusable, and I was borderline furious about.
I'll come back to that in a minute. But the voice you're hearing is Ryan Macleod. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, yeah. I feel up to speed now. I feel as if I've been waiting in a queue for like 45 minutes for going to fucking fix my insurance.
Yeah. Ryan,
how soon before you mention what it is that we're talking about? Do you mention it straight away?
No, not straight away. I was going to talk about you for a wee bit, because a lot of the people that listen to this podcast haven't necessarily listened to old stuff that we've done together. Okay. Because it's been a while. But Ryan and I used to do does that even count? We used to do a gaming podcast.
Aye. What do you mean? Does it count?
No, it does count. You're right. Sorry. We used to have a gaming podcast that we did with some other people, and we lived together for a while.
See, to be honest, when I think about it, I keep thinking it was much longer ago than it. Even though it was a long time ago and stuff that we're talking about. I feel like
it might be about 10.
Going on 10 years, I think. When did we meet? We met in Edinburgh.
Oh, we met more than 10 years ago. We met, I want to say we met 2010, 2011.
Right. People won't know that either. Or maybe they will.
But I'll give you some background on Ryan. Ryan, how do I describe Ryan? I
can't believe you haven't got something prepared. That's
I know, I'm sorry.
Insulting.
It is very...
Oh, God.
Ryan Macleod made his name doing a show called Consolvania.
Still making it.
And you're making it now. It came back. And you also had I'm actually going to segue into something here. But you had a show on BBC Scotland called Video Guiding.
I did,
it's all
yeah.
computer game stuff.
Started making a game show in our bedrooms called the Consolvania, and then the BBC went, fucking hell, that is amazing. Can we give you loads of money to make something about games? And we went, I suppose.
Yeah.
So we did that for 3 or 4 series.
Yeah, you had a few seasons of that. But I wanted to mention, Ryan's a legitimate 6th Doctor companion.
That's true, aye. He presented awards on was it the second series, I think?
It was the second series. There's a very strange scene, and it's not Colin Baker, it's the Sixth Doctor. He comes in and his coat.
I know.
No, I'm telling this for the audience. I know you know.
Fucking wrote it.
Welcome back to the Video Guiding Awards 2006. It's time now for the main event of the evening, the Video Guiding Time Capsule Induction Ceremony.
And it is our great honour to introduce...
No, you don't need to introduce me. Off you go. Go on, drably dressed little people. Go. Oh, don't touch me. Go. Right. Go. I could cheerfully strangle those two, you know.
I wanted to ask you about this actually. So when you had budget to do a TV show, did you just have a list of folk you're like, do you think we could get a Doctor Who on? Because you work with a lot of people. Like,
we tried to get Brian Blessed, couldn't get him, too busy. He's probably still too busy. When we met Colin Baker, when he turned up, the first thing he said to us, I remember, was Tom not available? And I think he probably turns up to a lot of jobs like that. But the unfortunate and sad thing is, of course we asked. Asked.
Oh. Colin's like a sort of like a. I think cooler. Cooler probably isn't the word I was looking for, but like more like a sort of a fan favourite. If that makes sense. It's like, well, you could have got Tom Baker, but you went for Colin with his big coat.
Bigger than it used to be.
So what happened? Did you? So you booked Colin? Did he come with a coat?
Oh, aye, totally. I came prepared. Aye. I didn't see him coming out of the car wearing it, but I only saw him in it.
Right. Okay. And I like the very soft lighting used to film.
That's just a weird episode. That was the director's choice. It was a really strange decision.
So lost Sixth Doctor companion Ryan Macleod. And it was also nice to hear Colin Baker say Chucky egg. He was
a real pro, so he was, I remember.
If you're British and you grew up playing computer games, you will surely have played Nigel Alderton's Chucky Egg. Swapped in school playgrounds, passed from brother to brother. Chucky Egg is the common ground we all share and is a true gaming landmark. It's the computer game generation's Super Mario Brothers. The award is to the designer, Nigel Alderton.
I feel
he did have he'd fluffed and stuff like that, but he knew enough to go just give us a second,
right,
get it repositioned and readjusted.
Nice.
Yeah, really professional.
I guess it's because it was BBC Scotland. You were allowed to just be like, this is because it was after it came back. I'm trying to figure out how tight the brand would have been on having them in appearing things.
No, was it back? Aye, it would have been back.
It would have been back. Yeah.
Guiding didn't start until 2007, I think.
Oh, okay.
7, 8, remember that?
I want to say, yeah.
It was definitely back.
Okay.
Aye, they had a really good time, so we did Colin, because there was a load of burlesque dancers in that shoot as well. I had a good time as well. I felt a bit lightheaded a lot of the time because there was the lassies wandering about with their taps off and stuff. I didn't know what was happening. But that's what telly's like.
Burlesque dancers, a doctor.
I know.
God, that's the heady heights there. The entertainment industry.
That was Hofstein.
I feel like
I got maybe 3% of the Jim Davidson life.
I feel like Colin Baker was a good fit because that his kind of in this period that we're going to talk about, but the 80s Doctor Who is linked for me with you think of British computer games, like the Spectrum and the BBC Micro and all that sort of stuff. Like that period of Doctor Who is in the same space as all that stuff for me.
Aye.
Come on, Ryan, let's go bury this for a doctor.
I use this place regular. All my skulls are up here. Nobody will find it.
You like old Doctor Who, but you don't like new Doctor Who. So I thought
I think my jumping off point was somewhere around David Tennant. I think.
Didn't like David Tennant. You like?
No,
Chris
that I didn't
Eccleston.
like David Tennant. I loved Christopher Eccleston. I did. That was short and sweet. He's one of my favourites. I don't know if I can pick a favourite, but he's one of my favourites. I'm not talking like somebody who hates Doctor Who.
That's alright, don't worry.
But you should have heard me talking about McCoy's episode.
Oh, really? Well, right, okay, so you do a podcast now. You do a show. You Consulvania now. Tell us what form Consulvania takes these days.
Consulvania's dead, really. That ended. So we make a podcast called CVXX, which is the format is basically that we started in 1984 because we figured that's when we were that was around about the time when we could start to kind of remember picking up on cultural things and starting to build a taste to a certain degree. So 1984 is when it starts, and every episode it progresses a year through time. Well, it should do, but we've ended up doing 2 parts and 3 parts for 1989.
Right.
So we're progressing through time until we get to the current year, but that's not going to happen for about another 8 or 9 years.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
It's hard to work out. We've tried a few times to work out, and it's more difficult than you think to work it out, because it also depends on how many parts you do as well.
Right.
So we look at games and films and TV through the years as we move through the years. So we were in 1989 and we were talking about the Curse of Fenric.
Okay.
With McCoy in it. And I hadn't seen all of the McCoy episodes. Definitely a good few of them, because I definitely fancied Ace. That came back in a hard way when I was watching it. I was like, I remember. No, there's a bit in it that I'd even mentioned 2 podcasts now. I've mentioned this, and there's a bit in it. You need to go through it basically in slow-mo to see. But she jumps off a ladder and you can see that she's wearing suspenders.
Right.
And I was like, that's difficult to deal with. That's a bit much.
But you didn't like Fenric?
The episode? No, it was rotten. It was obviously plagued by production issues, because there are scenes in it when it's raining so hard that you can hear the rain on the microphone. No on the umbrellas, on the actual microphones, and they've just had to use the audio. So it was plagued with production problems, apparently, but it's also badly made. It's really, I've already said this, but I thought it was really lazy,
right,
and just undermade, sort of, really everything's like one shot. Effects are just
75% of the audience have already switched off.
Aye, I know.
No, but that's fine. I think that period, especially if you go back to it, I feel like I do love that period of Doctor Who, but it is a bit of an acquired taste, and it's really weird. Also, they've got that thing with I feel like they're still trying to make the show in the same way that they always have, but they're trying to push it, and I don't and sometimes that can be a bit, doesn't quite work. And obviously, they're just, it's things like schedules and trying to make something exciting. I
was just thinking it in really simple terms, because I'm just going, you have a budget, you have equipment, you've got lights and cameras and stuff. If the weather's shite, fucking do something else. But McCoy was rotten in it as well.
Okay.
Robert thought differently. He thought that there was some of his notes were like flashes of brilliance for McCoy, but I didn't agree. I thought it was rubbish.
Okay. Well, we'll move on.
I actually felt a bit insulted sometimes. It was like it was barely even making a performance. It was like a guy who you were pushing past in the pub to go to the toilet, and they had a bit of banter for you. That's the kind
of. Okay. Well, no, this is good. This sets you up. We're back on format then. So I asked you, because originally I said to you, do you want to choose a Doctor and I'll choose a story? But then you said you actually would quite like to just watch Caves of Androzani. The Caves of Androzani, sorry.
Something is happening I don't quite understand.
It's called spectroxtoxemia. I've seen dozens die from it.
I don't think he likes us very much.
Peter Davison goes out with a bang.
Long time.
It's all over, Doctor.
It's time to say goodbye.
Say farewell to Peter Davison in the Caves of Androsani. Starts tomorrow at 11:50 on UK Gold.
And you said you've not seen it in 20 years, is that right?
Well, I realised that, because I think I only know that because I remember when the Eccleston one was on, there was a bit about it on one of those.
Oh God, that was 20 years ago.
Aye.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that would have been the last time I watched it, I think. I don't know. But Caves, yeah, so you wanted to do Caves of Androzani. Why did you choose that one?
Because Davidson's is quote unquote my Doctor.
Right.
So I wanted to pick that one. And I also went through the IMDb ratings and I went, what's the least shite one? Normally, like in the olden days, for so many years, I would go, show me the stinker. But
Right.
I don't know, my tolerance for it is.
I think the problem with Davison stinkers is that they're just boring.
Right. He's playing cricket and stuff.
Aye, it's. I mean, I like.
This isn't boring.
No.
Androzani's not
No,
boring.
no, no.
You'll
We're
know
going-
this, being a Doctor Who, and like, in the Doctor Who circles, because every circle has their own kind of dialect and stuff and patter. Does caves at Androzani ever get used like as a euphemism? Is anybody say, "Oh, I got my caves at Androzani last night"?
That, I have to say, hasn't come up, but we could start using it now. It's good
I think
rhyming
it's
slang
perfect.
as well.
I think it's perfect.
It's a mix of rhyming slang and whatever other word you would use. I don't know. Got my caves last night.
Any cave's a cave. No, it doesn't even work as well, does it? Who's your doctor? Quote unquote.
Quote unquote
Your
my
doctor.
doctor. Probably. I mean, I think it's Pertwee, because I wasn't. It wasn't
How
on.
can that be?
No, but it wasn't on for me. So in the 90s, there's a weird thing in the 90s where Pertwee was the go-to guy.
Do you lose the tea? You know, dealing with this tea.
What?
Pertwee.
Oh. No.
He's not having it.
No.
Strapped to tea.
So there was a weird thing in the 90s where if the Doctor was going to show up in something, it would be Pertwee.
That's true.
Until he died. And obviously, like, he turned up in Noel's house party a couple of times.
Did he? As the Doctor?
Well, he turned up as the Doctor for the anniversary Children in Need 3. Remember the one with 3D glasses?
I don't remember.
Where they went to EastEnders?
Oh, vaguely.
Aye, it's rotten. But anyway, he turns up.
Is it rotten?
It's really bad.
Oh, that's a pie.
It's just mad. It's just absolute nonsense. But also, he was so when the first stories I saw were repeats to his.
Mm-hmm.
So like him, I somehow managed to.
So that's your
myself.
first exposure as Pertwee.
Yeah. Also, like growing up as well, Doctor Who was it was this weird thing where it was everywhere, but I never got to watch it. But I always had this sense that it was this terrifying. It's funny to think of it now, but I had the sense that it was a terrifying television program that everybody used to watch. So
I've had to cancel it because it was cursed.
Because it was too scary, and
it's killing too many people when you take it off.
So, but I remember watching a bit of the Sea Devils in 1992, and then
I think it was killing a lot of the production stuff. Alcoholism.
Almost certainly. But I remember when we first got Sky, and I was watching it on UK Gold, and the period I was watching it on UK Gold was mostly Davison.
Okay.
So I saw a lot of Davison back then. But then when I went back and watched a lot of it, I was like, he's a bit. It's funny that he comes after Tom Baker, because I feel like he's a lot more. They've kind of reined him in, the character, in a wee bit.
Mm-hmm.
But also he's a bit. What's the word? He's a bit wet sometimes.
Do you want to say English? Because I'm alright with you saying English. Is it English?
Yeah.
Are you thinking them as a whole? Because in this, I have no qualms.
Oh, as a whole, aye.
Aye.
No, don't get me wrong. I don't. Some people think he's really boring. I don't think he's. I do like him, and I've been watching I watched a bunch of his stories recently, and there was some bangers that I've really enjoyed. But it's kind of weird. Like, this period of Doctor Who is kind of like it's moving into being a bit darker and a bit more like. I don't know when you say it's always been sci-fi, but you know what I mean, that kind of like a bit harder sci-fi,
right?
A bit less.
He's
trying not to be camp, I suppose.
He's on with Davidson into
Colin Baker, right? Just the way that, like,
how do you rate? This isn't nothing to do with the episode, but how do you rate the Doctors then?
What do you mean?
I mean,
like,
don't they owe them? Like, who's the top 5 Doctors?
I mean, I guess my faves would be I love McCoy. I'm sorry. I love McCoy.
How did that happen? Do you feel sorry for him, like a bum on the street?
I love McCoy. I love.
How did they earn that? That man was not sober in that story I watched. And I couldn't even bring myself to watch the Rani one for the start of the series.
The Rani one is rotten, to be fair.
Do you just like him?
I do like him. I used to tell you in the early days I didn't like him.
I want a performance. I want an actor. I want an Eccleston.
I like Troughton,
Fair enough.
Pertwee, and Tom Baker.
No Eccleston.
I do like Eccleston. I like Capaldi as well. I mean, I'll just start naming them all because I've got something I like about all of them.
What about
mostly.
Jodie Whittaker?
I like Jodie. Aye.
Did you watch them all?
Yeah.
I never saw it. I don't mean I wasn't watching it because I was well.
You'd made your feelings pretty clear.
I don't know. There's something
before.
erratic about Tennant's Doctor. That I didn't.
I can see why people don't like Tennant. I think he's definitely there's
it wasn't his fault. It was the stories.
All right, okay. I was going to say there's definitely a thing about his performance that puts a lot of people off. But I think it's the same thing that everyone else loves. So. Anyway, so we've chosen. So you chose Caves at Androzani for the reasons that you've said.
I know that I've seen it before in the past, but I didn't remember much of it, other than I knew what was going to happen at the very end.
It's funny. I do remember liking Caves of Androzani. Well, can I just call it Caves? I remember really liking it, and I was like, okay, I knew this podcast was going to get to that episode at some point because it's also one of the kind of revered ones.
Has there been Davidson ones before?
No, this is my first Davidson actually, and that
whinging you did sounded quite fresh.
I've got a bunch of folk that I chat to that were just. I think the funny thing about Doctor Who fans is that they will have to talk about it every day. like
Old Firm fans.
Yeah, I guess.
I know some people that it's the only way you can interact with them as human beings is to talk about the Old Firm, which is difficult because I don't fucking know anything about the Old Firm.
Aye.
But you're into what you're into, aren't you?
Aye, no, that's fair. But it's, if you don't have other people in your life to talk to about it too, you end up talking to people that are not interested in hearing about it.
AI should fix that. That AI will give a lot of people somebody to talk to, I think.
Just in the metaverse.
Until it can't take any more and it revolts. Like, fuck off, you sad cunt.
But yeah, so Caves Androzani is kind of quite revered, and so I was looking forward to watching it. So,
is that like a famously good one?
Aye.
Is it? Okay.
Aye.
It's a cool name as well.
It was written by like one of the old writers, a guy called Robert Holmes, who was kind of a bit of a legend. He wrote some of the episodes. He's written quite a few of the kind of big. Do you know Spearhead from the Autons? He wrote that one. Talons of Wenshine.
So how many years before Androzani are the big ones that he's?
Spearhead from Space is like 1970. So.
Okay.
And so he was doing it through the 70s, and then he came back and did a bit, and then he died actually planning out a Colin Baker season.
Right.
So it was him, and then it was
not actually making it, like.
No, he wasn't on. Like he was just.
He just slumped to his desk, and some air came out of him.
And the director Graham Harper is the only classic series director to have come back and worked on the new ones. But he's kind of like the same thing as well as like the way that he was making the show was kind of fresh. He was doing some mad things like I don't know if you noticed there was a lot of shaky hand.
No. I've got a lot of notes about how it was filmed.
So he brought a bit of that to it. But yeah. So anyway, we'll get started. So I'm gonna. We don't have to do it episode by episode, but generally
I've done. My notes are chronological.
Okay,
so whatever. But I've got the attention span as well, so I'll just be jumping all over the place.
That's absolutely fine. Right, so
how we met was that was me demonstrating.
So episode 1, right. So this is the second episode for Perry, the companion.
All right, okay. I didn't know that. I didn't even know that.
I think so. I watched the first episode, and generally my feelings, because I didn't watch them all in one go, I kind of, stretch them out.
No, I spared them there a few days as well. I watched the last two together.
But generally, I was a wee bit worried when I watched episode 1 because my first initial thought from beginning to the end of that episode is this is pure misery.
Misery in what way?
It was just dark and dingy and like just everyone was having a bad time.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Because when I talk about like my nostalgic feelings of Doctor Who, a lot of the stories that I remember are dark and dingy and confining and...
Well, I think
that's a wee bit what old Doctor Who means to me.
You. Right, okay. But like, there's kind of just that, like, so they arrive on this planet, and I now realise it is because there was a scene...
Why did they go? There was no explanation.
There's no explanation because there was a scene cut out because of production, because of scheduling or something, where he explains that something about glass, like when he was a kid he had a bottle that he blew glass.
I would have liked to have seen that.
But instead it's just we came out. I think there's a line as if to say like Perry think they might be going to the beach, and I feel like this is a good kind of set up for Perry, because Perry's whole time on that show is she's just like having a bad time. It's very funny, like the idea that they, you know, later on when they talk about travelling with the Doctor, it's like it was wonderful, we had the most incredible time, we saw the most amazing things, and Perry was just in this constant state
getting slapped about. It's no safe to go out in the universe as a beautiful woman.
That's true.
You got weird S&M guys coming after you.
Aye. But she's just...
How long was she on it? A while?
She did it right up until Colin Baker's last season.
She came back, didn't she? Or did she? No?
No.
I thought she was one of the ones that made it back into
No, they did.
New Who.
The tide's out. When you said sand, I thought maybe I could take a dip.
You're a little late, Perry. About 1 billion years since there was any sea on Androzani Minor.
You're such a pain, Doctor.
Come on.
But no, that's interesting what you say about like that's how you remember Doctor Who being. But the thing is by the time we get into episode 2, because I was really like, oh no, this.
What were you hoping for a different setting?
No,
because I was watching it and going, oh, look at the views.
It looks great.
Views at the window and stuff.
The quarry stuff is great, and I think it looks great. There was like, you know, the episode ends with like we've wandered into these caves. There's a really shite looking monster wandering about, and we're going to be executed.
What did I say? I think I said it looks like an aardvark. Is it a giant aardvark? I
don't know what it's meant to be. The weird thing about that monster is that it brought...
Has that been made for Doctor Who?
Has it?
That was requested.
Well, it is one of those things. It's one of those Doctor Who things where I don't know if it just comes from like someone's been like, I'm not confident enough in this story, we need to throw in a monster. And they've made this big...
There seems to be a lot of, I mean, I've seen this at like I've watched lots of old Doctor Who, but again, comparing it to Fenric, there's a shitload going on half the time. And in Fenric, that was another big criticism, is that earlier episodes lag, and then the 4th episode is pure chaos.
Yeah.
To the point where you've got like scenes that are literally like 2 seconds long. Somebody will come in a door, end a scene, go somewhere else. It's chaos. But that's obviously just incompetence. We're all drunk. We're all drunk because it was raining. On the BBC gravy train. I've written down, mind the guys were using gas weapons, which seems to be just normal weapons that have got gas canisters glued to the top of them.
The monster feels like one of those things that they've been like, we need a monster in this, and it's just because it brought nothing. Literally through the entire story, that monster brings its few appearances.
It gave us that shot at the end of the 2nd episode when Davidson's behind the rock with a petrified face on, and there's a big rubber aardvark behind him. It gave us that moment.
I think the thing for me when I see stuff like that in Doctor Who is just like it's always that feeling of like this is what people who don't watch Doctor Who think I love. You know what I mean?
They think that I am this a wee bit. They think I walk a bit like this rubber aardvark. There's Richie.
But Aye, no, I do like the setting. I thought this, like the stuff on the planet, they do put like a weird kind of...
I thought the lighting, this is wild to say this out loud, I thought the lighting was good. I thought I liked the matte painting stuff in the background. I thought the music was great.
The music's really good, yeah.
It was really very, very atmospheric. I thought the performances were all... Everybody was taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And they were all... maybe a wee bit over the top, but still, like... I was really taking it.
It's very theatrical, isn't it?
Aye.
Which I quite enjoyed.
A lot of the guys are stagey guys, aren't they?
But that guy, the baddie with the ponytail, Morgus, the corporate guy in the office.
He's the richest man in the universe.
I love he keeps turning to the camera.
Aye, I thought there was going to be an explanation for that because he does it through it, and there isn't an explanation.
I mean, this sounds like bullshit to me, but I read that there was like a misreading of the camera direction or something.
Right.
And he comes from like he had a theatrical background, so he was kind of soliloquying it a little bit. But surely at the time someone would have been like, didn't he do that?
I thought the master was coming or something. I thought something was happening. It happens once in Fenric as well. Oh God, I forget the character's name.
With the baddie?
Was it Fenric himself? The professor? There was a professor guy.
Professor, yeah.
But he looks at the camera just once for like a second, and it's like the only artistic moment in the entire 4 episodes. Aye, no, I was expecting an explanation for that, looking at the camera, but there wasn't one. Fair enough.
So I think
there was a hell of a lot of like camera direction going on, and a lot of different ideas being tried out, and a lot of different kind of blocking stuff. There was a bit in the prison cells, the 3rd episode or so, where the camera kind of moves back and then moves back again. There was a lot of people at work, people trying things out and trying to be creative.
Androzani Major was becoming quite developed last time I passed this way.
When was that?
I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the future.
A very confusing person to be with, Doctor, you know that?
My third note that I've written down episode 1, third thing I've noticed about Doctor Who, Perry is very cute. She's
a very good looking woman. A very fine looking woman. She's also just get that curse obviously with, you know, all Doctor Who fans being old men, that every time she posted anything on social media she would get weird comments.
God.
But I remember the last one I saw was like, oh, you're wearing well.
You're wearing well? Jesus Christ.
Looking great, Nicola. But the whole thing with like Doctor Who being dark, I feel like the 80s feels like a bit of, even though chronologically this isn't the case, but it feels like the sort of moody teenage years. Like everyone that would have been children watching it in the 70s are now kind of a wee bit older, and they want it to be a wee bit like darker and a bit more grown up, which it kind of does feel. I feel like Peter Davison, the Doctor at this point is almost kind of a wee bit dismissive of Perry. Like he's not that fussed about her being there.
Certainly not as fucking dismissive as Colin Baker is when he turns up, the cheeky bastard.
There is an arc with that actually that I quite like, is that he's kind of dismissive of Perry at the start, and it's just like when she dips her foot in that thing and gets Noel, and he's like, oh, you know, just get on with it, don't worry about it. And then towards the end he's like sacrificing himself to save her. So while at the start I was like, I don't like the dynamic here, by the end I realised that there's like a full arc, which is really good actually. And I feel like that also comes from, because you have that moment when he's regenerating where he says Adric's name, and I'm like, is this because when you know how Adric dies,
I knew he dies, I don't remember how.
He
through popular demand, understand.
He sacrifices himself, and the weird thing is you just have a wee moment in the next episode and then everybody moves on because it's telly in the 80s. Like we just don't, you don't really hang about for this stuff. But you have that wee moment when he regenerates where he says Adric's name, and it's like, so I wonder, like it kind of, you could say that him like being sort of dismissive and he doesn't feel like he doesn't really want her around, to being like, I need to save this woman's life because feels like he let Adric down, maybe.
Right. Okay.
I don't know, quite like that. It's an idea, maybe.
Yeah. Not entirely convincing how he just flies that spaceship back to the planet, to be honest.
Oh aye.
Looks like he crash lands it, but then he's controlling it with like a BBC keyboard or something, so it's understandable.
Yeah.
There was one thing about that. Can we jump straight there to the very end, to the regeneration scene as you're bringing it up?
If you want to, yeah, if you want to.
Because there's two things. I mean, surely to God, it must be famous as famous gets in Doctor Who circles, but Perry's blouse is. I mean,
there's an interview with Davison.
I can't even think what to say.
Where he talks about how it was a bit distracting.
A bit.
When he was trying to have this big death scene.
If I was Davidson, I'd want to die right there, like, because this is as good as it will ever be. There's that also. I was a bit confused why the Doctor's got fillings, why he's got so many fillings in his teeth. Because that's the kind of thing that an actor in the 80s would have in his teeth. No,
this is like
Time Lord.
There's a bit in Pertwee's first story where he has a shower and you see he's got a big tattoo. It's got like an old.
Thank God, there's just so much a slight gap there.
He's got a big tattoo, and there's obviously been lots of fun kind of.
What's the tattoo? Do you know?
I think it's like an Old Navy tattoo or something.
Right.
Some theories as to what that could be. Like, has he been branded for his exile on Earth and all that sort of stuff? And it's just like, no, we just did.
Oh my God.
So I don't know. I'll have to look into theories as to why the Fifth Doctor has so many villains.
There will be one, no doubt. Maybe their technology or something. TARDIS put them there. Something like that.
Aye,
that'll do.
TARDIS gave him villains. He went to a planet and had too many sweets and.
Fucking Baker ate all the jelly babies, didn't he? That's different teeth. The teeth surely is it the same teeth? Is that the cost of the Time Lord? You have to everything regenerates apart from the smelly old teeth. No, somebody says new teeth, didn't they?
Oh, David Tennant says it. Maybe that was the first.
That was the first one. That was the first teeth regeneration. I'll need to rewatch that scene.
Oh Christ.
Davidson says it's at one point, I think somebody asked him, it would have been Perry asked him when he was last on the planet, and he says, I don't remember. It might have been I can't remember, it might have been the future.
Oh,
but I like the fact that it was a bit like I couldn't tell you. I know I've been here, but I can't place it.
As if he hasn't got like a machine that takes him wherever he's always like, I love how the new Doctor's like, anywhere in time and space, anywhere you want to go, any exact moment that you want to experience or whatever. And in the old Doctor it's just like, I don't know, mate. We're here,
let's enjoy ourselves. We're here. Make sure our celery doesn't turn purple.
Turned up to a war zone. I've written one thing down here for episode 1 that I clearly wanted to remember, but when they walk in to the room and it's been emptied and he picks up the dice, goes, these dice are still warm.
The dice are still warm. What is it about that got you just to the fact that he could tell
just
that they
a
were
bizarre, yeah.
You see, I even picked up on the fact that it said dice, because they should have said die. Actually, the doctor would have said die.
He's more of a cricket man than a tabletop,
I suppose.
Role player.
He likes to get it. Half a pint. The uniforms that the soldiers are wearing, I'm sure I saw in the Krypton Factor.
That's what it reminds me of.
Aye.
Christ.
I think it's the same uniform as
I was looking at it going, this evokes something. It can't just be the 80s as a period of time. It's got to be, fucking hell, you're right, the Krypton Factor. I'll need to go back and look.
There's a close-up shot at one point. I've even got the timestamp, 8 minutes 13, guys, if you want to check it out. There's a woman using, I think she's the assistant to the richest man in the universe. The universe, the galaxy. What is the?
I don't know.
Is
that an actual line? Did I miss that?
What?
That he's richest.
Aye.
All right. Okay.
That's why he's in that position, because he's the ruler of all these. He's the richest man in all these planets.
Right.
Maybe it's when he meets the Doctor he introduces himself. But his assistant woman uses a remote control device, but there's a close-up of it. Obviously he must have got away with it at the time on old CRT TVs and stuff like that, but you can clearly see that it's just a TV remote control. It's got a volume, it's got a brightness, and it's got the channel numbers on it. And
a Bush logo. That's good.
It's one of the early ones, isn't it? Because everybody goes for the long design, but it's before then, so it's a kind of rectangular design remote control. So
possibly even cutting the wire off the.
Aye, maybe did. Aye.
So I feel like I'll jump into episode 2 unless you've got anything.
Let me see. I've just written down things that are happening. The president. Is it the president? No, the president. The rich guy, ponytail man. What's his name again?
Morgus.
That's him. Bit like your name actually. Richie Morgus. Him and his assistant are standing in a lift, but they're standing about 3 or 4 millimeters away from each other. Thought that was a bit weird.
Something I really liked actually. See when he does the video call.
And he walks around it.
Well, he doesn't walk around it though, but he has. So they have this thing where like. Obviously, the video call is just a video effect that's been slapped on top of the video, and I've said this a million times before on the podcast, but these visual effects are done live.
Oh, really? Live mixed?
Live. They would have been live vision mixing. They don't. Generally they don't. Anyway,
does that mean because in Fenric they have these Armenian soldiers that are in the story, and that originally they're speaking Armenian, and there's some subtitles, but the subtitles look like the graphics on like Top of the Pops for back in the day or something like that. They don't look like you would see in a film.
Did you watch it on iPlayer?
No, just found.
I
found it.
You might have just seen an old. I don't think they were subtitling them live. I just mean like any visual effects they would have used a vision mixer.
Oh, these were also exterior shots, like on beaches and stuff.
Oh, they would have. So. That might have been different. I know studios.
That wouldn't have been live.
No. Studio stuff is. They do. So they have the thing, and they do the shot of him walking around it, and they cut away just at the exact point that his shoulder would have made contact with the picture effect.
Right.
This is not electrifying chat, but I did enjoy that they were trying to create that effect of the screen was in front of him and we could see through it into him.
That was good.
But it's just that's good creative visual stuff, I think, for me.
No, it was very. I thought it was very creative. The episode. I've written down it as eerie how they've managed to predict so accurately the fashions of the future, because they've got as we've got sitting here right now. They have got big foam rings around them as if they're in case they drown.
Yep.
What do they call the mud things? The muds.
I've written it down. Explode.
Aye, there's a
mud burst.
Mud bursts.
Aye.
I've written down mud burst city limits as well. That must be what the rings are from. This is a mud burst.
Also, the lift with the slowest door.
I know. Well, that lift's a bit dodgy. We'll find out later anyway that there's a lot of issues with that lift. Spectrox is quite a cool name, isn't it?
Yeah. Spectrox toxemia is a good couple of words.
Sinclair Spectrox. 18 minutes in, I've written this episode is actually quite well directed.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It's all gone well. So that's me done for episode 1. What's happening here?
So episode 1 ends with the cliffhanger of them getting shot.
Yeah.
And that's that is a good one, because you're watching it going, oh no, we see the guns are going off, what's happening? And then you come back in and it turns out they were robots. I love some of my head can't accept robots for some reason. I don't know what it is, because it's always
racist.
Like as a plot device as being like, oh, also he just builds these hyper realistic, completely
why would they not
accurate.
Be able to, if he's a genius?
I know, but I always feel like if you can do that, then what are you worried about? Because that's incredible.
What is he up to anyway? This happens all the time when it comes to.
I feel like he's just in hiding because he was like a powerful.
What's he after though? What's his?
Is it not just revenge?
Is it? I mean, Perry gets involved and he wants Perry, obviously.
He
gets a bit. He gets a bit Ryan Macleod a bit. Perry.
They're going for like a sort of Phantom
when
of the
he's
Opera.
Walking about well, like when he's cradling and he's oh no, I was thinking to myself in my room with like pictures of Michelle Pfeiffer and Winona Ryder. That's me.
She's just like me. I know, all that stuff is a bit weird, and it's kind of a... Do you know the chat about how Nicola Bryant, when she auditioned, pretended she was American?
No.
So when they said they were only auditioning American actors, and her agent was like, I don't know if it was her or her agent, but somebody told her, you're going to have to pretend that you're American, and then she got the job. But then when she got the job, she had to continue pretending she was American, so nobody knew. So she was going on television, she was doing interviews and everything as an American.
Right.
And it's just this bizarre... She's English. I don't know where in England she's from, but she's English. And eventually, at some point, I think when she was working with Colin Baker, she came out to Colin Baker as an English woman, and then eventually, you know... But she had this
Is she in the show with an English accent as well?
No.
She keeps up.
She's American for the whole thing, obviously. But they just have this weird... I've seen like interview clips with her and stuff where, you know, this whole idea of her keeping up the American who she is, and then when interviewers start asking her questions about her life and stuff, she's starting to, it starts to get tough for her, basically. But it's this weird thing where she had to live life in public as an American. Until she eventually was able to admit to the showmakers.
Jeez, I mean, you definitely wouldn't want to do that these days, would you?
And it wouldn't work.
How no?
Because there's eyes on everything.
What do you mean?
Like, if you were on telly pretending to be an American, there are thousands of people on Earth that have interacted with you at some point in real life.
Well, I can't do it at the age that I'm now, but I can.
No, I just mean like someone online would be like, I know her. I went to school with her.
Maybe. No, you're right.
So those days are gone.
We need an...
You couldn't get away with that these days.
I hate that decision though. We need an American. We need to do American. Back to the Future's been it. We need American things. We need to be more American.
Aye. They just wanted an American lady.
It wasn't her accent I was interested in.
Right,
what's happening in episode 2?
Episode 2.
The Emperor I've written down sounds like a calm Brian Blessed. Yes, it seems to have Brian Blessed's voice slowed down 20-30%.
Well, the rich guy?
No,
the actual boss.
Aye. The president.
Right, okay, that's a good.
The guy that gets
right.
done that.
I'll need to drop a recording and...
Well, I feel the decision to execute was precipitated. Some useful information might have been extracted from them.
They were merely ignorant handlers, Excellency. The stews of the city are full of such unemployed riffraff.
Most of them unemployed, Trimorgus, because you have closed so many plants. It's caused great unrest.
Easily settled. Those without valid employment cards will be shipped off to the eastern labor camps.
Yes, we might make that seem morally justifiable. I'll put your interesting suggestions to the Presidium tomorrow.
Naturally, should any special funding be required?
Most generous. Of course, the irony is, while you've been closing plants here in the West, you've been building them in the East. So if the unemployed were sent to the eastern labor camps, a great many of them would be working for you again. Only this time without payment.
I hadn't thought of that.
Of course you hadn't.
Speed that up and see if it sounds like Brian Blessed.
But we get our first proper look at the baddie in this episode, which I think is also why, like, it picks up quite heftily in the second episode, and that's why I started to really enjoy it. But I remember watching the first one and being like, I think this is going to be a bad time. But then it was like, okay, we're moving now, things are happening, it's interesting. I like the kind of commentary about sort of big business, and you know, obviously it's made in the 80s, so we're kind of in the middle of all that, but like sort of profit over life and all that sort of stuff. But
they said straight away that I don't know if it was what is his name? Jack.
Oh, Shara's Jack.
Shara's Jack. His androids shot all the bats, because the bats make the Spectrox. Basically, eventually they make the Spectrox. But the androids, when they first went in to mine the Spectrox, killed all the bats.
Aye.
So what did that for? Was not a bit short-sighted?
Is that a bat joke?
What? Are they short-sighted? They're blind, they're not short-sighted. Bats are short. They just need a stronger prescription. They could go during the day.
It's it's funny how much I miss. So the android shot, that's why there's no bats.
That's what I've written it down, because that's why
all the bats are like deep in the...
Aye.
Right, okay.
Because they were all killed by the fucking androids. Idiots. I still don't understand why the androids didn't shoot the Doctor. There was no explanation really given other than he's no human. Because they did just mind they took the chance and they went...
Aye, they're programmed to shoot humans.
Only humans?
Aye.
Right, okay.
At that point, maybe it's because they'd shot all the bats.
Right.
It was like, just shoot humans. And then we see that weird shot.
You know what they were going for. I got the idea of what they were going for with that shot, but it wasn't quite as detailed. It was just something's... Oh, it's no...
You saw the 2 hearts. You saw the...
Aye. Stop doing that.
Sorry.
Gesture, please. Weather's too hot.
What have I got written down? The map looks like Dig Dug.
It does, aye, that's true. It looks like somebody's teletext is broke or something.
Again, like it was like I could hear a BBC Micro when I was looking at it. You remember that noise a BBC Micro made? Like it always reminds me of school, that noise, but if you turned on a BBC Micro it went remember that? So that's the noise I hear every time I see one of those graphics. Oh yeah, I wrote down handheld camera. We start to see some good handheld camera stuff in this.
Yeah, I liked a lot of I don't know if it was the second or the third episode, but there's a lot of distant shots when there's a lot, maybe it's the last episode actually, distant shots when a lot of the killing's going on that I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, kind of like you're spying on them.
Aye.
Yeah.
You're hiding for them.
Aye. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff like that. I also just like...
But is that not the artistic point of like handheld though, is that when you're seeing a handheld shot it does give you a certain amount of reaction and emotion that you don't normally...
From far off it looks like you're observing, yeah, but if you're close up it's more like it's usually shorthand for like a bit of tension in the room. Usually you can always tell. It's really funny if you're watching a telly program and suddenly the camera switches to handheld, you're like, oh, someone's about to have a fight, and like within seconds someone will be shouting, and that's usually...
I've seen that so many times in films where you just see a film, like a shot maybe of a driveway, say, or something, and it's handheld, and you're like, what's wrong here?
What's about to happen?
What is going on?
But we get some... So Shara's... Let's talk about Jack.
He's a goth. I've written down Shara's Jack as a goth.
He's a bit of a goth, isn't he?
That's a good suit he's got on.
Aye.
Is that just the BBC department just building that for him?
I guess so. I do really like his design. I like his mask.
I thought, see when his mask came off, I thought he looked fine. I didn't really see what the hassle was.
It is very funny that people reacted the way that he did to his mask.
They really overdid it. He had like some Rice Krispie stuff stuck to it.
He looked a bit like a Romero zombie. He had that green skin thing going on.
He probably stank.
He probably did, aye. That's probably what it was.
Mainly the smell.
The mask was lined with air fresheners.
Perry's like, I can take a doctor's teeth, but this is...
Yeah, there's a weird... I like how overly theatrical and overly melodramatic that he is. I think I just enjoy, because he just goes for it.
Actually, I just really enjoyed that everybody was taking it seriously. Everybody was turning up to work. I really enjoyed.
Aye. And then, like, see the film stuff, the exterior stuff and everything, that looks so good as well. Like, I just had a real... What's the word? I don't want to say, like, filmic or cinematic, because it's none of those things. But it just had a good, like... I don't know. Just had a good feel, a good look, a good texture.
You mean the way it was filmed overall? You mean, is that what you mean?
Well, I mean like the exterior shots of the planet and stuff like that, the sand dunes and the...
Aye.
But like, yeah, overall how it was filmed, I think it was really good. I genuinely think that it's a shame that monster is in there, because if you took that monster out,
it's really, I find it really bizarre that they, as I say, they requested it. Like, that's what they... It seems like something that was sitting around for some other purpose.
I think Doctor Who has this... old Doctor Who has this curse. I think, it's my theory anyway, I just think this is how things probably... Because of scheduling and because they're making like loads of episodes a year, that like at some point someone will say, can you do me one of these monsters?
Yeah.
And then a department goes away and makes the monster, and then it turns up, and then you go, well, we've got no time to do anything else, so now this is just it. There's a great example of this actually, and there's a Tom Baker one, I think it's Creature from the Pit it's called, and where again they had to have this big blob monster that comes down a sort of cave corridor, obviously, and it sort of emerges.
Does it grab anybody?
And it looks, I swear to God, it looks like a giant green ball sack and flaccid penis.
Does it grab anybody?
Does it? I can't mind. It might do. It must do. It's got to be dangerous or something. It can't just be waving its big.
Yeah, not necessarily. Things can slowly come towards you for quite a while in Doctor.
That's true. But I think that was a case of like, it's here now. We have to just do our best with it.
One of the worst things that happens when I'm playing badminton with Jerry McLaughlin is he'll do the Cyberman on me. And the Cyberman is basically just, if I'm ever winning, if I ever manage somehow to get in front against Jerry, he'll do the Cyberman, which is basically just slowly, relentlessly coming towards me. They're not even the worst offenders, Cyberman, for going slowly towards you, but there's a good selection of Doctor Who enemies who'll slowly come towards you. No, fair enough. I'll give you that about the monster. The monster's a bit rubbish, but other than that, I'm pretty chuffed with how this episode went. I enjoyed the Doctor getting bitch slapped in the third episode. Thought he took it well.
It's kind of a weird, like this, that period of Doctor Who as well. It being kind of grim, and there's a lot of people dying, and it kind of feels like
there really is a lot of people dying, isn't there?
There's like, I feel like the Doctor is just kind of there.
This is one of the notes I wrote down. It's like the Doctor by the time he leaves with Perry, and basically they're just escaping. Like, you never achieved anything or helped in any way. You just escaped.
You wandered into
which I like. I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's intentional. Like, I think it's kind of it's funny actually. Like, again, you know, talking about the period of Doctor Who that you don't like, you know, being new Doctor Who, it's like the Doctor turns up like fucking Jesus and is like this incredible figure who just changes everyone's lives, and instead you've got him, he turns up somewhere and everyone's like, who's this? And then they get on with what they're doing, and then everyone dies, and then he has to escape. So yeah, he doesn't
remember if he's been there before.
But yeah, no, I think that was an intent. That seems to be like I think it's a running theme or idea for the series, for that period.
Well, I've written down that Scottish Snake Plissken's clays don't fit him properly. I can't mind the character's name. The Scottish guy.
Dots or something?
Something like
with
that.
With a beard?
Aye. His clays are too big for him.
What did I read that he was in?
He has been in a lot of stuff. He's been in Next Generation.
So he's the Romulan in the episode The Chase?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's good. He was good. He had a good 80s sci-fi face. I think there was a lot. I don't know if it's the haircuts or what, but there's a lot of good 80s sci-fi faces.
There's quite a few moments there having a laugh and then having to hold it for maybe a second or two.
So the gun runners, are they sort of mercenary types? Something
like that. Aye.
It is funny when you start to go, right, what? There was a point at the end of the episode. I was like, I'm having to recount this later. What are they doing again?
The rich guy was using them for something.
He was trying to get more
Spectrox.
Jack, who's got loads of a big
tons of it, apparently. Apparently he's got tons of it. What is it does again? It keeps you young.
It keeps you young. No, because remember the Emperor guy was like, you wouldn't know I was 80 years old.
Yeah. And the other guy goes 50 at most.
Aye.
Which I thought was a bit. He could have went a wee bit lower than that as a compliment.
I do love that it keeps everyone young, but everyone still looks like they're...
Aye, I know. That's the thing, the stories get written, but all the actors are like... they're all a bunch of Benson and Hedges.
You didn't have to let them take him. You could have stopped them.
To think that I, Shadow's Jack, who once mixed with the highest in the land, are now dependent upon the very dregs of society. The base, perverted scum who contaminate everything they touch. And it is Morgus who brought me to this. Morgus destroyed my life. You think I'm mad?
No.
I am mad.
Right, 10 minutes into the second episode, there's a nice long fade. Look it up.
A nice long fade?
Nice long fade, aye. I'm really taken with how this episode's put together.
No, I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's the point of the...
I was really lucky watching Fenric before this and getting so upset at that for making the effort and wasting everybody's time. Are they not allowed to destroy Doctor Who episodes to keep the standard up a bit?
That's maybe what they were doing in the 60s.
Right,
So it's like, it's always better. It's amazing in your memory, but don't watch it. You can't watch it. It's funny watching, like, I don't know, there's something about watching old, like you watch like studio based telly, like this episode of Doctor Who, and it is so, in a way it feels so far from what telly is now that I almost feel like there's that thing that when I show it to people now, I'm always a bit like, are they even going to be able to
it's no even,
is it even palatable anymore, you know?
It's not just how telly's made and stuff like that, and that there's the internet. Well, it is that there's the internet these days, but it's something I talk about an awful lot when we're doing the podcast, is remembering things for childhood. There's an eventfulness about a lot of these things that is hard to even describe now because everything is so instantaneous. But there was an eventfulness to Doctor Who. Having to wait a week and everything's always a cliffhanger.
I think that's a lot of people got upset about the last series of Doctor Who that was on. They were like, it'll be on at 6 on a Saturday on BBC One, but we're putting it on iPlayer the night before at midnight so that it can go out at the same time globally.
Right.
And that's just that's how we watch telly now. That's how we're expected to watch telly. I think the reason that upset so many people is that, like, you know, you don't get the build up through the day, you don't get the, you know, the last minute dash to make your dinner so that it's ready when it comes on and all that sort of stuff. It's just this, you know,
it's just another bit of content.
It's just another thing that's out. But no, I know exactly what you mean. It's a bit like, you know, when you,
because we also talked about Next Generation. And like my memories of Next Generation isn't just watching it when it was, definitely a lot of memories of watching it on like BBC 2 6 o'clock when most people first seen it when it was on, first aired in the UK. But earliest memories are getting it on videotape if somebody who had Sky, and there would be an eventfulness to precious.
It was
Also, I mean, it must also be the case that life was just like a bit quieter. There's less immediate content all the time coming at you.
I think it's that, and I think it's just that, you know, every channel is pumping out like several prestige. Everyone's competing with their own prestige drama, and it's like, speaking
of pump, I've written down at 5 minutes and 40 seconds that there's a medical syringe that's used, but again, you wouldn't have caught it in CRT back in the day, but you can clearly see that it's just like some kind of plastic valve pump thing for B&Q.
Right.
Look it up. It's a remote control and a B&Q pump thing.
Nice. Well, just to be in line about. I was just going to say that, like, what if a big show was on in the 90s or whatever, or when you were younger?
The Wrestler.
No. As soon as the words came out of my mouth, when there was a big telly show on, like, everyone would talk about it, and it's just
we just talked about Noel's House Party
because that's what was, you know, and there's still an element of that. I think there's a lot of TV shows that people still do that way, but you know, there's a massive period of time when all you had was the X-Files, Star Trek, a bit of Buffy, and that's it. And that's like a year's worth. That's like, I can't even keep up with everything that's on this month. But this sounds like I'm just being old now as well. I used to be better. So but I know you mean. I do like the idea of like when something came out in videotape and you jumped in the bus and got into town and then just sat and stared at the cover all the way home.
I can think about just video cases and I can get a big nostalgic hit about it. It's not just the physical objects difficult to describe, but I get a big hit for just thinking about how exciting it was to have that thing.
It was quite powerful.
In a box, in a wee box.
And whatever show it was, it was probably 2 episodes on the tape, and that was it. £15. It's funny to look back on because there's always things that when we do this, I try to say to people, like, don't watch them all in one go. Like, it's not a film. You know what I mean? It's like it's a telly show, and it needs to be. Just take a break in between the episodes. Sometimes, like, if you get, I mean,
that would have been a month. It would have taken you to watch that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to say it, but I wrote it down here that it was on 8th. That can't be right. 8th of March to the 16th of April?
Maybe.
1984. March 84 it was.
So I would have been 6, just turned 6 years old.
6.
There's no way I would have been able to comprehend the complexities of this story at 6.
You were just watching things happen. Maybe the monster was for you then.
Aye. That's just about the only age. The cut-off is about 6, 7 before you're like, you fucking Dean, you big rubber. So the Emperor, is it the Emperor, the President? No, the rich guy, but the President guy gets pushed on a lift shaft in the third episode. Quite a crude way of bumping somebody off, I thought, but effective.
I was sitting there waiting for that shot of him falling down the lift shaft because I actually remember it being worse.
Oh no, it was fine.
And it was fine, aye.
It's quite brief.
Yeah, it's very brief, but also it's like, it's actually, I don't know if it's just, I really like, you know, see when you're younger and you're watching stuff like this, and you're like, wouldn't it be great if they took all this and changed the effects and maybe they could make it all kind of cool and modernise it, and I think it would be really great. And now I'm like, if you touch a frame of that, I want the full genuine experience of watching telly in 1984.
I really also liked the exterior space shots, mainly at the start of the episodes. They were only 4 or 5 seconds, but it was just like spaceship model and some planets and stuff. But I was like, no, I like it. I like it.
I know, I do love all that stuff now.
Doctor! Unlock this door! What are you doing in there? Are you going to open this door or not?
Ah, Stutzy, have you had a good rest?
Damn you, Doctor, open this door!
Sorry, it seems to be locked.
Come on, go get the cutting gear. Now listen, Doctor, be reasonable. This won't do you any good.
Stutzy, we'll be touching down in a couple of minutes, or more likely crashing down, you see. I'm a bit out of practice with manual landing, so if I were you, I'd find something firm to hang on to.
I'll murder you when I get in there, Doctor.
I noticed that the spaceship at the end of the third episode is made out of polystyrene.
Is it?
Well, they're cutting through the door to get to the
doctor,
the way they're cutting through the door is to just heat a bit of metal and then just.
I quite like that effect.
Yeah,
it's quite.
It was fine until I realised, that's polystyrene. Because I think what's his name, Scottish Snake Plissken.
Oh, Stotts.
I prefer mine.
He
pretends to burn himself on the hot polystyrene. That's polystyrene.
Yes, I guess
Doctor's going to have to be really careful landing this ship. It's made up of polystyrene.
I like the bit in there's a bit in episode 3 where Sharaz Jack says to Perry, when Sharaz Jack says to Perry, "Do you think I'm mad?" She's like, "No, I am mad."
He clearly is mad.
He is a bit mad, aye. He's a bit mad, isn't he?
When they pushed the Emperor guy, President Emperor, down the lift shaft, it takes them about 5 seconds before somebody says, "Still could have been worse."
No, my slip hands in the air over here.
Why?
Because I'll kill you if you don't.
Not a very persuasive argument, actually, Stubbs, because I'm going to die soon anyway. Unless, of course,
I'll give it to a count of 3.
Unless, of course, I can find the antidote. I owe it to my friend to try because I got her into this. So you see, I'm not going to let you stop me now.
So, I've got written down for episode 3. I've got banger cliffhanger. I think it's like it's what
that's him in the spaceship.
It's a weird There's a weird I mean, that's a big cliffhanger for Doctor Who fans as well. It's another fan favourite, but it is quite chaotic in the sense of like when it's happening. There's a bit like, why are you doing this? I don't know if you had that feeling.
Why is the Doctor doing it?
Aye. You know, he's escaped.
As I say, this episode seemed a wee bit unusual to me in so much as I know the Doctor's no he's often like out of control and stuff, but like he didn't really seem to have a plan at any point, other than kind of trying to escape, and even that wasn't a solid plan until the very end.
It's like he didn't really care what was going on. His whole thing was just, I mean, that's very, because he didn't care what was going on, but he has that line about like, I didn't want to get involved, like they're having a war and he's just like, right, I don't want to be this has got nothing to do with me, and you just keep making me involved. But like, yeah, I guess his motivation for flying the ship back is for Perry, and I guess he's not really fully in control because he doesn't know what he's doing.
TARDIS is doing there as well, mind.
The TARDIS was doing there as well, but I do
that
like,
wouldn't get destroyed though, would it?
I don't think so.
I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Kasterborous. I'm 903 years old, and I'm the man who's going to save your lives and all 6 billion people on the planet below. You got a problem with that?
No.
In that case, allons-y!
Like,
see, in modern day, who gives a big speech about who he is and how amazing he is and how he's going to fix everything. By the end of that speech, I'm like, well, do I need to watch? Also, shut up and stop being such a show off.
That's fair.
Is he in any way still in modern form a shambles, the Doctor? I mean, is he? I mean that in any way. Is he comedically a shambles, or is he like mentally like still supposed to be like broken or anything?
Are you talking about? Like, you asking about like in the new show, or are you talking about this specifically the current one, or
either?
I think one thing that Matt Smith did extremely well was to come off as shambolic, but as a way to disarm the people around him, to make people underestimate him, and then suddenly he would be like, because that's a very Troughton thing to come. He comes in looking like he does. He's a bit like a bit doddery, and then suddenly he does something amazing.
It's such a good. It's a really effective mechanic in entertainment and fiction to get people on board like that, like having like a Columbo type thing that everybody warms to.
But also to be surprised, to have something like to the front to do something that surprises you.
That 10 minutes at the start of Matt Smith's reign, when he first meets Amy, I think is my favourite 10 minutes of Doctor Who.
Really?
From any episode.
It's good. I mean, that episode is great. But yeah, you're right. By the end of it, he's like, I'm the business. A run for your life sort of thing. I know what you mean. I think it's like they're trying to do that thing again with like the whole hero thing where you're like, it's quite addictive to, or the idea that it's addictive to watch someone who's just really good at what they do. And that, I feel like that's just been ramped up to some ridiculous level. And I feel like there's been some attempts to play with that or change it a little. I do feel like Jodie Whittaker's Doctor is more grounded. I feel like when,
But they're always going to be, regardless of how grounded that Doctor they have, the show is all, it seems to me anyway, it's always going to be more leaning towards a massive space battle with a million Daleks and much further away from what I want, which is an intense conversation between the Doctor and the Master in a room. That's what I want, a really well performed intense conversation.
I know what you mean. Actually, yes, a good thing to talk about with this is like the idea that Doctor Who should be dark. There was a really good episode recently where the episode was quite dark toned horror kind of episode, and I think Doctor Who and that sort of stuff, I think it works, but also I think there needs to be like there needs to be some way to bring the fun into it as well. So have you ever seen, I don't know, there's a Tom Baker one called Horrifying Rock.
It's one of my favourites.
Aye. So that is like the end of that episode.
That's got a slow moving object in it.
Yeah. And everyone dies, and it's just like, on one level, it's just a horrifying story about there's a really unfortunate thing that happens to all these people, and they all die, and it's just really well realised, and but at the same time, the Doctor's in the middle of it, just having a great time. I think there's a certain idea that people feel like Doctor Who should be darker, and I do like when it goes dark, but I don't like, I don't want it to be miserable, if that makes sense.
Give me an example of a miserable episode.
I don't know, like, just take it back to the first episode of this, where it's just like, he arrives, he's not too fussed about why he's there, he's kind of a bit dismissive of Perry, they get caught, they get thrown in a jail cell, and now they're going to be executed. And there's no, I think if you threw Tom Baker in that situation, for example, even just him being a bit snarky and a bit fun and a bit like, you know, the situation would still be the same, but you'd feel a wee bit more
brevity.
Yeah.
As I say, I was more taken, rather than criticise Davidson's performance, I was more taken by the fact that he was actually taking it seriously and he was in character, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. It's hard, but I guess it's a hard balance. Must be a hard balancing act as well.
But you're right, he isn't the most flamboyant Doctor.
No.
But I thought he was solid, at least. I like when that moment kicks in, when he realises that he's sick, basically, the Doctor, he realises that the moment is coming. They have this subtle, eerie vocal music that comes in as well. I really like that.
I think as a Regeneration story, like, when you think about like the Regeneration story, like Tom Baker's one before that was kind of weird in just the sense that we had this kind of sign.
He fell, didn't he?
He fell, but also they had the Watcher. This
Aye,
mysterious figure watching him. Aye.
For a while as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just for that story, but that was the kind of, you know, sign through the whole episode that something's going to happen, and then and then he regenerates at the end. And I don't know if it's just to do with the fact that people must have known going in that that's what they were tuning in for.
Right.
But like Caves Androzani is the Doctor slowly dying, because there's a point where he gets
I'm right in thinking that he steps in a cobweb. That's what happens.
That's basically it. He gets poisoned.
Nearly kills the two of them.
Him and Perry get poisoned, and it's about him trying to save her. Like, the story is just about him trying to save her, but also how he's slowly dying. And you have that. There's a great, which I didn't realize until recently, but when he wakes up on the spaceship, there's like a weird picture effect, and then he rubs his eyes and it goes away. There's like a weird rippling effect, and it's the regeneration effect that they use later on.
Right, okay.
So it's a bit of foreshadowing, like this is coming. So the whole, like, I do like that the story builds up to, it's his sort of decline in health, and it builds up to him dying at the end. And that's kind of, I mean, obviously the way Colin Baker regenerates into McCoy is not worth talking about.
Well, how does that work?
Because he got sacked and he refused to come back. So they
Baker?
So
I didn't even know that.
They put McCoy in a wig.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they have a bit basically where they're like, the TARDIS gets shot.
Probably off count.
The
remember them.
the Rani comes in and they turn over his body, and they put a picture effect in his face, so it's trailing, but it's a Colin Baker wig on Sylvester McCoy.
Jesus Christ.
But like when we do regeneration stories now, it's a similar thing where it's like we build up to this idea that death is like a big part of what's happening. And
there was a limit before, wasn't there? Is there no limit now?
There isn't.
Regens. There isn't now.
It was acknowledged, but there's a whole other thing going on.
How annoying would it be if you were regenerating and your arch enemy just is standing right in your face going, die! Die!
Oh.
And Adric, you wouldn't really want Adric showing up either.
It's a great, and I think it's because I watched a bunch of Davison in order, and I kind of fell away from it. But watching Androzani now and seeing it as a sort of end point to his era is quite good. I mean, I know it's just the simple thing of just showing all his companions, but like this idea, I've gotten this idea in my head now that he's kind of like dealing with, he has this guilt about Adric and what happened to him, and he's remembering that, and obviously that particular master was a big part of his era as well. But yeah, no, I do like it's so good when Anthony Ainley turns up and he's just like, die,
Doctor.
Doctor.
Sake, mate, I was going to anyway.
It is very funny that his last line, you know, how he has the line about like it feels different this time.
Your teeth?
No, his teeth. My teeth. Sorry, I feel a bit weird. And how it's that he's going to turn into Colin Baker. And it's like...
Do you think it feels different this time has something to do with the downturn in quality that he senses is coming?
It's just, it's a big regeneration. It's a big regeneration scene. It's a big... Like the way that they play it, the way that, you know, everything around it. It's like... I think it's just acknowledging that, I guess, there's always an excitement around a regeneration, and I can't imagine what it would have been like at the time, but tuning in for it, you know, making a big moment out of it.
There must be something I can do. Tell me.
Too late, Perry. Going soon. It's time to say goodbye.
Don't give up. You can't leave me now.
I might regenerate. I don't know.
Where is it?
Feels different this time.
Oh, there was also a bit where the doctor, because they said when he was going to get the stuff to cure Perry.
Oh yeah.
There was really low oxygen content, so he had to keep using this breather thing. But again, and that's the third close-up shot where I was like, you definitely wouldn't have clocked this on a CRT. But it's the nozzle for a Hermes bottle,
right?
That he's breathing air out of.
Incredible.
Yeah, I like to pick up on these.
I would. You know what? I'd have loved that job.
Making stuff.
The
making
prop
stuff. You're just going to fucking presto.
You know, being in the props bit and being like, I'm gonna, yeah. I mean, that's still someone's job, I suppose, but
I think you need to be a bit better at it than you did.
I know. I've seen like an old women's razor and stuff like that.
you bought like a 50 grand 3D printer, but you actually bought it just to make the moose nozzle for somebody to breathe it.
And that was a bit of a mad ending, actually. Him going down into the caves and milking a bat.
Aye,
a big old bat.
He did. Fair play to him.
Yeah,
he earned
it. That was actually, do you know, that's not even the last episode of the series.
It's a one-man story.
There's a story after it, and it's Colin Baker's first story. And did you know that when the year that
That'd be good if they always did that, but it'd be hard to keep that secret.
I know. In Doctor Who magazine, the year that they had the poll to be like to place every episode, and the year that Caves of Androzani was number 1 fan favourite. The next story, The Twin Dilemma, was the absolute bottom. It was number 200.
Right, okay.
Which was
so
funny.
They hated it immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, what an attitude to turn up with on them though. I know. What is it he says to her? She says she asks
3
him,
eyes in a single breath.
No, that was the second Sarky comment. She just kind of goes, doctor, and he goes, are you expecting someone else?
Yeah. I know.
Like
it's that weird thing about Colin. Like, I always thought that the line "it feels different this time" is like a sort of reference to the next one's going to be a bit of a dick. And they have this his weird first scene where he's a bit kind of confused, but also he's just a bit of an arsehole, and he chokes Perry. Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
What for?
Oh, God.
Is she into it?
No. I hate to cut that.
Why do you need to cut this? Why do you need cutting?
The sunglasses going on.
What was it you always told me, Doctor? Braveheart?
Must survive. Too many of your enemies would delight in your death, Doctor.
Braveheart?
You're needed. You mustn't die, Doctor.
Many of your enemies would delight in your death, Doctor. You know
You're
that,
needed.
Doctor.
You mustn't die, Doctor.
You know that, Doctor.
Adric?
You know that.
You mustn't die, Doctor.
No, my dear Doctor, you must die. Die, Doctor. Die, Doctor.
So you enjoyed it then?
So yeah, I did. I liked
So did I.
I really liked it.
So it was really colourful and fun, and the performances were all really strong. Story got a wee bit much for me by the end. There was at some point in the 4th episode there was a load of people running in different directions, but I couldn't tell what direction was what.
That's classic Doctor
It really
Who.
reminded me it's either Rabid Grannies or Rabid Grannies 2. This is a bit of a leap. But
Rabid Grannies?
They're Italian horror films.
Oh right, okay.
But I just can't believe I've never heard of Rabid Grannies. No. But they're basically just, it's kind of typical low budget horror where it's like they've got a big house to film and stuff, so there's a lot of stuff happening in this house, but it's so fucking confusing.
Right.
Because they're no following normal logic. They're like, the scenes are just kind of, it's very, very confusing. That's what it puts me in mind of. Right. When everybody was running about in different directions in different caves, and I was like, who, what?
Aye. I mean, it's a more straightforward story than some Doctor Who's, definitely from that era as well, where it's just like we have a baddie.
It wasn't Fenric was definitely a worse story, but there were moments where Fenric was kind of quite unusually written. They'd done a wee bit of research and there was a bit of kind of folklore to it, and there was a lot of big themes at play in Fenric, and sometimes there was some dialogue that was quite kind of poetically nice. So there wasn't
stuff as when the priest was like questioning his faith, and he had that when he
Nicholas Parsons.
It was great.
Do you remember the stuff with Ace talking about? She's trying to seduce a guard to distract him, but they had to change the lines because the weather had been so shit. Because she was supposed to be saying things like, "It's so hot, I'm hot under these clothes" and stuff, but she couldn't say that. She's saying super vague stuff about. You need to rewatch it. It's really strange.
But anyway, but back to Androzani. I really liked it. It's weird that it's like, Fifth Doctor goes out in a high, I think.
Definitely. So how long's he been about then before he pops off?
He did season 20, 2019. He did 3 years.
3 years. That's not that long then, is it?
I think a lot of them do 3.
Is that an average?
Yeah.
Apart from
Tom, who was there forever. Okay, so off the back of Caves of Androzani, do you think you'll go and watch any more Doctor Who?
Yeah, I'll definitely watch older episodes. I always go back and dip in and out of older episodes. I'd like to see Mara Davidson's. I don't have much of a memory of watching him and the Master interacting, so I'd quite like to see what that looks like.
There's a lot of really, like, so many of the episodes, the big twist is like that guy that you've been looking at for 3 episodes is the Master. Like, he always has the mask pull, and it's the Master.
Who's your favourite baddie? Doctor Who baddie?
Who's my favourite baddie? I like the Cybermen.
They are good. The old ones or
I mean, the 80s ones are fun,
but the new Who ones are rotten.
Aye.
The crying. I did it for Queen. I did it for Queen and Country.
Actually, I don't know. Would you like it? There's a Capaldi's not last episode, but it was meant to be his last episode.
I saw that episode where he punched through the wall. That was excellent.
But there's a very good. There's a good episode called World Enough in Time, and the Doctor falls, and they're great.
The Doctor falls. I'm sure I might have seen that. What happens in it?
The Capaldi one, where they land on the spaceship, where one end of it, because they're next to a black hole, time passes differently from one end from the other.
Maybe I don't.
Yeah, and that's got Cybermen in it. That's very good. I think you might like that one. That's quite dark.
Let me note it down. Fool me once. Get fooled, you can't get fooled again. Doctor Falls, is that what you said?
The one before it, World Enough in Time, it's called.
World
and then the Doctor Falls is next.
Is that a 2-parter?
Yeah. But in terms of Davison ones, Kinda.
Kinda?
Kinda. Kinda. It's a great one. Kinda, and then there's a sequel to it called Snake Dance. Both amazing.
Okay, I'll check them out then.
Well, Ryan, thank you very much for
no worries
coming on.
I'll see you again in another 5 years or so when one of us is making
when one of us needs content. That's terrible.
So what are you just making this Doctor Who thing still? Is this your
podcast?
This is your main content?
Yeah. I mean, I don't like, I'm kind of busy. It's quite
a bloody nightmare, isn't it?
But also, I started doing this more because every time I put one out, a lot of people were really happy about it.
Right.
Like, I started doing a wee Doctor Who podcast as a sort of like, I quite like to do a Doctor Who podcast.
Did you just put it out for free?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. But yeah, it's got a decent. People seem to like it, and a lot of people who don't watch Doctor Who listen to it, which is really weird. Yeah, so I started picking it up again because I was like, oh, people seem to actually like it, and if I can do it, then fuck it, why not?
Cool.
But yeah, well, this is episode 19, and I've been doing it since 2000 and yeah, it's been over.
Takes me like I'd say comfortably like a week. I'd really like 10 days maybe to edit a podcast.
Okay.
And that's mad, because that's one a month. So where do you, how does that doesn't work. The maths don't work. That's why I need AI to start doing everything.
You just make an AI Ryan. I don't know what it would say, but
it just keeps shutting itself down.
I should give you an opportunity to. Where can people find you? Yeah, I know you don't. I know you don't want to be found, but
no, we definitely do want to be found. We've got a whole team of people working in the background, clipping for us and stuff like that, and readjusting our metadata or whatever it is they're doing. We make CVXX. Just that's what you need to look for. CVXX.
Okay.
And
there's a scathing review of Curse of Fenric somewhere.
Yeah, I really wasn't very pleased about it. It was also doubly pissed me off because obviously if we're talking about things, ideally we like to use the content, like footage of the content.
Oh yeah.
But the BBC being the BBC, we're like, no, you can't. No, that's precious. That's precious. We made that's ours. You can't use. So I couldn't use much of the content that I wanted to use. I did do all the techniques like flipping and stuff like that. And
nothing.
No, I got some, but it was a pain in the arse. So they probably pissed me off for that reason as well. But aye, you'll find CVXX on YouTube and Spotify and whatever, Apple, whatever, everywhere. It's everywhere. It's a podcast, you'll find it everywhere. But please watch the video because it takes ages to make the video. Don't just listen to the audio.
Cool. Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Richie.
And I'll see you all next time.
Do you
Bye.
beam out of the studio at the end of this?
No, Doctor Who doesn't beam anywhere.
Oh, does he not?
He leaves in a...
What show is that? Where they beam out?
Bye, everyone.
See ya. Bye. Bye.
Doctor?
You're expecting someone else?
I...
That's 3 eyes in one breath. Makes you sound a rather egotistical young lady.
What's happened?
Change, my dear. And it seems not a moment too soon.